Hello and good morning. Welcome to another Ogre Arena. So, today there was another request from Mr. Vale, who wanted to see a party of fairies versus a party of dragons. Now, first off, you've seen the scaled herd, the dragon party, but here is the one for the fairies here. So, might be thinking, hey, that's Denim, that's cheating. No, he is actually a modded version of Denim. He is essentially a fairy in a mech suit, as we apparently decided to go with. Yeah, he is the murder fairy that survived the Night of Lotus run, that so far has been rocking pretty hard in the March of the Black Queen run, and has beaten the Lucht run as well. So I went for a few different setups here. This is just kind of the party setup that evolved over the course of the run. So here we go. Their armor is fairly standard, standard mid-range stuff. Figured it was the best way to go with it. Steve is the only exception with the Vulcanheim. It's throwing axe. He needed to have the best throwing axe, considering the guy has gotten basically like snapdragons and maximum weapons multiple times now and just keeps misplacing them. Anyhow, so here's the party. So we got him with this throwing weapons. He is a rogue with sneak attack. Technically, I don't think that'll work with this weapon, but oh well. Booby Trap, I guess he doesn't need Fey Pact either, huh? Well, whatever. Speed Star, Tactician, Field Alchemy, Double Reflects, and Sidearms. They start with some extra skills. I mean, again, they've been through some crap. I don't think it's going to make that big of a difference. Once again, kill moves are basically just status moves that they get at this point, and some extra accuracy, which, given their agility, that accuracy won't even matter, especially against stuff like dragons. So, anatomy was removed, so some of their skills won't necessarily make sense. But we got all this stuff here. So we got, you know, Field Alchemy, Steel won't really matter much. Deflect, Booby Trap, all that. The Rogues, again, they kind of have a limited amount of abilities that they can use, but they get very good use of those abilities. So I intentionally didn't include all of them, because what I want for the two crossbows here, Rapari and Miscredo, is essentially for them to just be long-distance damage snipers. Don't want them to do anything else. So we got Luca here, along with, where are they? Marina and Crossback. Those are kind of going to be the Vanguard units, as it were. I don't know why they're not set up for that in this window, but oh well. So those are going to be your Vanguard units. Essentially, they're there to guard the center. We got Rasulka, Yaroslava, and Ira here. There are three others that were just made for bum rushing with damage and evasion. So if I can show their stats real quick. So they're right here. They're going for maximum evasion builds. It's almost 300 avoidance there. Almost nothing should be touching them. Again, the kind of midliners here, they're going to be either Spike and Shield and Reflection, or, in the case of Luca here, the closest thing to his usual sword was this staff, I figured. So he's more of a run-up and smack stuff kind of build. The others are short bows and casting abilities, with some reasonably high evasion, and enchanter hats so that they can hopefully take some of the hits for the party, use the reflect damage to do some damage while they're doing that, and then pass out heals. About half the party has heals, the rest are there to try and avoid and do damage. There we go. We have the Celia Mosquitoes, and next, they're going against the Scaled Herd, who's been around before. They are dragons that moo. Now, let's go ahead and give this a go and see what happens. Alright. So, they're here to defend their beach. Their little, presumably they retired back to, he must moo. Actually, before I forget, let me go ahead and automate these messages. Alright. Let's see what happens. They're all gonna bum rush forward, do their whole thing. I would think, provided they don't gang up on particular units, that the fairies have a pretty significant damage as far as their setup goes. I'm not entirely sure why I didn't save my AI settings for these guys, so I might have to redo them at some point, or we may have to do a second round if they do end up properly going for only melee. But all of them should have reasonable range, and why is this freezing? That was weird. It just decided to freeze for a second. I've never actually seen it do that before, I don't think. They're all going to run up, hopefully get into range. So yeah, Steve's here to defend his beach. And yeah, so the fairy run has been an interesting story. So, months ago, about a year ago now actually, I was going and doing Iron Man runs of One Vision. Actually, I think I was just starting the first Iron Man run, the one that ended up failing. The one with Denim and Felicia having their amazing last stand. But yeah, no. There was a guy, he went by Vin at the time, now he goes by Vale. So he came by. Oh, by the way, before you ask, what's the deal with the Gremlins? The Gremlins and the Fairies, for all intents and purposes, especially for this run, were basically the same thing. They're just in there for flavor. Now, what I was getting at here. So, he came by and was commenting on a few parts here and there, and yeah, the topic came up of doing a fairy run. Like, oh, you know, it would be interesting to see if the entire series could be beaten with fairies. And, well, naturally the thought was, well, friggin' challenge accepted, I gotta try that, because I want to know myself. So, I went for KOL. I thought it would actually be a while until I could hire them, but apparently there was just a random, not entirely random, but like a 50% chance that the starter town, or at least one of the towns that you start close to, could give you fairies. So I went and hired a bunch of them, and the casualties throughout that run were preposterously high. Like, I want to say of the 37 or so units, I think, like, was it 9 survived? Or no, I think it was 8, no, was it? 16, no, 16, I think, survived the run. And by the very end, they were completely maxed out with all their emblems and all of their super weapons and everything. And, yeah, so 9 of those survivors were picked to move on to Locked. Now, if you're wondering why it's 9, I basically just got lazy with the codes at that point. There were 9 main ones that I used anyway, the other ones were just kind of extras, so I figured, Steve got bored of them and kicked them out. Huh, apparently these count as male units. He's supposed to say that only when he targets a male unit, specifically not a monster unit. Interesting to note. So, alright. So that's all well and good. Like I said, in KOL, their evasion was super high, but by the way, if you're wondering about traps, yeah, they're amazing now. That thing just got stopped and lost half its health. So, what was I getting at here? Yeah, so their evasion was amazing, but they had nothing against casters, and they had a tendency to just basically be screwed as soon as they took a hit. Actually, specifically when Astoria happened, I think more than half the party got wiped out. Because if they ended up losing a 40% roll, they were just dead. Well, at any rate, you know, all is well and fun there. They're all level 50 by the time end boss rolls around, so the guy can't even touch them. But yeah, they carried over unusually well to Locked. So, Rakes gave me codes, essentially just taking the first 9 units that were hired and turning them into fairies. In the case of Denim, there's actually a bit of a thing where if the main character gets turned into something that is not a person, the game doesn't know how to handle that, so basically he had to be kind of artificially made into one. That's why he's an angel knight that can fly. Or he's supposed to be able to hover. I don't know why he's not hovering right now. He normally hovers. I might have put in the wrong code. Anyway, maybe I missed a line of the code or something, but point being, he's got all the same fairy stats and everything. They all do. They were all set up under different templates and everything, and yeah, it actually worked out surprisingly well. So most of that run consisted of running around using Virtuous Dance on stuff, and convincing a bunch of units to fight each other. There's eventually going to be a second part to that run going all the way through Coda, but for the moment it's kind of shelved in order to go through March of the Black Queen. But yeah, if you're ever wondering if it's possible, A, yes it is possible, and B, oh my goodness, it's fun. It's really, really fun. Like, more fun than you'd think. Because they're like the absolute trickster units. They only get 2 classes. You get Rogue, so for that you get your traps and your damage, because they can do a crap load if they get claws in the back. By the way, I was messing around with the AI giving claws in the back. It was kind of iffy, so that ended up not happening. But yeah, and then they're also really good with throwing weapons and stuff like that. And then you also have your familiars with all their friggin' crazy amount of debuff moves. By crazy amount, I mean they basically can fill out more than half their skill tree with just, you know, just different kinds of moves to completely turn a fight around. You got, like, health leeching moves that also shut down that unit for their next turn. It basically sets their RT to 0, which basically means that whatever equipment they're carrying and whatever their class score is that that accumulates whenever they move, all of that is completely shut down. So they go to their lowest possible point. You got your stun and poison moves for somebody to get, you know, just get repeatedly go around fumbling and dying to poison. You got your petrify move, you got your bind shackle stop, you got your crystal for getting rid of zombies and stuff like that. They get so much stuff. Okay, these guys are taking some severe punishment. They have no way to recover, but 2 of the fairies have already been eaten. We'll see how this goes. Make that 3. Alright, for a second there, I thought this was going to be very one-sided in favor of the fairies. They're doing a very good job of getting behind and using these frost moves. And yeah. He's gonna moo in pain! So they're gonna do a pretty good job of attacking from a distance here. Going for their bind shackle stop here. How did all 3 of those miss? That's pretty rare. So, when it says 40%, it's basically 3 separate rolls of 40%, so usually bind, shackle, or stop will hit. Also, I'm amazed none of them have used pumpkin pie yet. It's probably their best healing ability. So if you're unfamiliar with it, it's actually far better in OV than it was in base game. I know I say that a lot, but it's very true. So in base game, it was basically half of the user's current health was, I believe it was rounded down, so it was like closer to 45% or something, is applied to an AoE area. This is the same thing, kind of, except that it's the full health of the user, so it just doubles the whatever health that unit has. Again, it's one of those weird things where it's kind of strange that they put that in there for base game, because they got, I believe they got access to all of the proper heal moves, so they would be able to do a lot better healing by just using those, as opposed to using their TP abilities, which were, you know, better off for stuff like this right here, where they can just go and shut stuff down. But I can safely say that the fairies are probably one of my favorite, well, gremlins too in this case, because they get access to a lot of the same stuff, but I can safely say that they're probably some of my favorite units in the series, just because of how ridiculous it is that this tiny little thing has so much power behind it. And there we go. Another one of the dragons down. Actually, wait, that's the first of the dragons down. What am I saying? So even though a lot of the fairies have Reflect, it's not going to do a whole lot of good for them when the dragons have this high of a HP pool. Mostly they're relying on traps and some of their heavy hitting moves to try and get kills off. Let's take a quick look at the status. I'd still say the fairies have a chance of pulling this off. Like they've lost 3 of their units, that's perfectly fine. Most of the rest are doing alright. Just because every time one of them gets hurt, unless they're finished off immediately, they're completely healed up. Whereas the dragons, as you can see here, they have no method of recovering, and they are slowly but surely getting whittled down. I would say right now they're about 70% of their effectiveness, but we'll see. Alright, that changed it. There goes another one. But the fewer there are, the more resilient they become. Because then they just take fewer turns. Essentially, they end up being able to heal better, they end up having fewer units to worry about, so they don't have to waste turns healing. These guys are going to keep going for... Wow! Again, it's really rare that that completely misses, and they've been running into a lot of that. Okay, come on. I'm going to go for a Dispel to get rid of their Take-Off ability, or their Lift-Off ability. If you're unfamiliar with what's going on there, dragons can fly now, just for a very limited amount of time. 25%! That was 25%. Actually, that 25% feature is probably the biggest nerf that the fairies got in Locked. They can no longer max out their evasion to the point where they were untouchable. Because yeah, previously they could actually get to the point where melee stuff would just never hit them. Like, even bosses and stuff would get like 5% chance to hit. Going for more shutdowns. Another miss! That is bizarre. Okay, almost taking out Luca there. Barely got a chance. Thing is, with how high they're hitting, as soon as they hit, they can usually follow that up with a AoE move. Because they've all got Tactician, and they've all got their AoE breath. Going for another salve. Alright, going for Speed Star. Alright, well, they finally missed one. Or not anymore. Oof. Just Luca's doing the Matrix dodge over here in the middle of a pile of corpses. Oh, jeez. Oh yeah, you may be wondering about something else too, which is that the heal moves have that little secondary heal on them. That's another one vision change. Essentially, it's a way to scale up healing without it becoming ridiculous. So essentially, it does a slightly higher amount than its regular heal, but then it also does a secondary one, again scaling up a little bit. I believe that secondary one has a fair bit more scaling to it. So basically, all healing units are able to at least have a reasonable chance of topping off whatever they're healing, instead of, you know, giving them a little tick on the bar. Which, cool idea, a little bit annoying. I'm not gonna lie. Like I mentioned before, you know, comparing it to base game and all that, it got a little bit annoying sometimes to spend like 8 straight turns healing a tank unit. And then they would just run in and immediately lose all that health again, and then you would have to go and repeat it, and it's like, ah, jeez. Which is funny, because they could have avoided all of that by simply not having Strengthen and Fortify in there. I mean, the other ones, fair enough, I guess, but... Okay, yeah, you know what? I think this is it then. It's actually getting to the point where the fairies are not going to have a very good time pulling it back. Oh, in case you're curious, by the way, the whole deal with the Celia mosquitoes, I actually never finished that story. So, that mosquito run, the very first few parts of it, were spent going and taking all these mosquitoes and having them earn fistfight emblems in Celia Beach. So there was this story that Vale came up with about just a local gang of fairies taking over and running some, like, prostitution ring or something outside of a church. Where they were just going and forcibly recruiting people and forcing them to fight each other in the ocean. It was pretty great. Yeah, Vale had a whole, like, storyline going for that entire run. It was pretty fantastic to read. That's the nice part. I'm not terribly entertaining. That guy is. Let him make up the story. Huh. Also, my friend just let me know that apparently the title program has all of the soundtracks for Skyrim, Oblivion, Morrowind. Nice. I have to pick that up at some point. Okay, more traps. And they've taken out 2 of the dragons so far. Again, it's just a matter of persistence at this point. Because all of the dragons have to team up to even take down one of them, and that's basically what's been happening. They go and they all pile all of their crazy powerful moves to eventually hit a 25 to 40%. And if they're able to do that, all well and good. Otherwise, they can't really touch them, and some of them are very close to passing out here. They've got a few at full health. Actually, those wind dragons are probably the scariest thing because of that silence ability on them. Oh, and they got tricked. Again. So Steve's probably going to take out that dragon as he has the others. Yep. Didn't even need to use that really, but whatever. I suppose he just felt like it. They're going for more poison on those remaining ones, and man, terrible trade. I don't know that he's going to back up into that, but it's worth a try. If this hits, he might. Yeah, bound and shackled, there we go. Actually, whichever hits first. So, for example, they have bind, shackle, and stop. So bind will be the first one. It's basically the same as don't move. Shackle will be the second one. If that hits, that takes over. And then if stop hits, it basically stops them entirely, and then that will take over. So I believe they can have shackle and stop, but they can't have bind and shackle. Also, I know this is practically becoming a normal thing now, but be right back, because I have to go check on something. Okay, back, and I just noticed, I think they just took out Luca, didn't they? Yeah, they took out Luca, no! Mr. friggin' Stick Smasher himself. Ah, jeez, these 40%. It's fine, Steve will just handle it all himself. Actually, one thing that would be pretty funny is if Steve just kind of found a way to fly up to the top of that cliff. Which is nice, because the dragons also have their flying ability, but whatever. Actually, this map was probably one of the most annoying things in this no-skill run I tried once. Okay. Here, I'll probably try this run again in one vision at some point. But the idea was pretty simple. It's just you go through the entire thing from classic game rules, so just no skills whatsoever. So that basically deleted any possible use for caster characters, for one. Ooh, he just got charmed. But okay, so, deleted all the use for them. And then, additionally, made it really annoying to traverse a bunch of places, because this party was functionally unable to go through Palace of the Dead. I believe I had a rule on there for... Wait, did I have a thing for no books? No. There wasn't a thing for no books, because using a 99 paradigm shifts was the only way to get a few floors into Palace of the Dead. So that was a pain in the neck. But yeah, okay, so... The point being, was going through this whole run, and on this map, ended up just getting stuck for like an hour, because I didn't have any proper archers. They didn't really seem necessary against beast units, because I figured... Actually, no, wait, no, I did have archers. I had 2 archers, I think, right? Brain, refresh information, please. I don't know, it's been like 2-3 years, so give me a minute. But okay, so, point being, there were octopi, and they kept hiding in the very corner of the map, out of range of everything, and I had nothing that could go into the water. Because the only units that actually get weighed innately, I believe, are, octopi and rune fencers, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so got a little bit stuck there, since the majority of my damage was actually coming from charm darts. And like literally almost every single fight turned into just make everybody fight themselves, because we sure as crap can't do it. But in OV, it should be a little bit more interesting than that. Alright, I think they might have actually run out of healers on the fairy team. Let's take a quick look. Okay. But first off, 3 of the dragons are gone. Soon to be 4 because of that guy. The rest are at pretty reasonably high health here. So Ira, Marina, let's see. You know, Marina, I believe, is the only one who actually has healing abilities. Yeah, they've got 1 healer left. Why did you let your healers get eaten? Yeah, he's on critical, so he's got to move. Sorry, I was reading a kind of confusing email from a client of mine. No, interesting note that I've been kind of observing for a little while here. There's kind of obviously there's confusions that come up every now and then as far as language goes, as far as... Okay, good. You heal yourself. Don't go healing anyone else. But okay, as far as accents and confusions on pronunciation and stuff like that, it's kind of an odd thing that I've noticed that a few people I know that speak other languages primarily and go for English stuff, I know that there's a joke that somebody types a language in a, shall we say, incorrect manner. You know, maybe they'll just say, they'll type it out how they pronounce it or something like that, and it's like a common writing joke and things like that. But, yeah, Vin, you're the storyteller. That's why you shouldn't have taken up the sword there. But okay, so point being, I've noticed that a few of them actually do, like, go and they write that way. Like, that they actually write with an accent because they're not sure what the proper spelling is, so they just kind of say it how they pronounce it, which is, you know, incorrectly spelled and all that. It's, I don't know, it's just been an odd thing to notice. Oh, by the way, one thing, I believe it came up once with the traps so far, that you may have noticed, but there's been a few times now when incorrect traps have been used. So for example, there's a few of the traps that are actually beneficial. So I guess we can kind of count it like the Ranger class from FFTA 2, where, you know, maybe it won't necessarily have a negative effect on whatever you're hitting. Just nice, I suppose. Nice. And they're doing a pretty good job destroying each other. Vendetta! Oh, that looks so cool. No, my coffee's gone. Gotta go make more. Miss! Yes. They still have a chance. It's a slight chance, but they've got a chance. Really? He vaporized him. Yeah, stuff like Implosion and some other stuff that has a secondary effect will often make it look like the unit got vaporized. It's especially funny with cursed weapons, because they do their double hit thing, which basically it doesn't really know what to do with the second impact. So, well, dang it. But yeah, so many times, like for example, somebody gets hit with a cursed bow or something, and the first hit kills them, the second one will just pop off, and they'll just disappear. Just disappear into a bag of stuff. Alright, so their odds are low. Their odds are now gone. Steve was probably the key to them winning this. But you know what? I'd say the Fairies put up a pretty friggin' amazing fight here. Like, all things considered. We've only got Marina left. She's the healer, actually. Let's see, we got 1 poisoned, 2 poisoned. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so 8 dragons left. Wouldn't it be hilarious if she somehow pulled this off? Okay, well, Disembowel is gonna go ahead and make that not possible. So I gave them every ability that they could have, which unfortunately also makes them want to do stuff like Dispel instead of attacking. But, you know, they're doing okay. All things considered, with how everything went, they did pretty alright. Unfortunately, there's no AI for, you know, just kite the other guy around the map, because that's probably the most practical thing for them to do. Honestly, if they went and they hovered above the water, there's literally nothing the dragons could do. But, what can you do, you know? That's just life. Of course, Kyo Marina somehow pulling off a miracle and just beating all of them. Hey, go figure, that guy did finally step on that trap. Brilliant. Donk. Yeah, the next one, by the way, is going to be a little bit of a weird one, and you'll see what I mean. See what I mean when it comes. But I think after all this, I may... Ooh, well, yeah, there we go. The dragons won it. They ate all the fairies. Sorry. I'm sorry, Steve. Hang on, I gotta pull up the... Where is that picture? There's a picture for this exact situation. Where is it? I'm just gonna have to put this as the thumbnail. Steve, yeah, there we go. Load! Okay, how do I do this? Sorry, I'm trying to make it work properly here. Yeah. That... No, that didn't work. Alright, it's not resizing properly as I want it to. Well, that didn't work exactly. There we go! The dragons should have known! I think that pops up properly. Let's see, what does the thingy say? Yeah, that's good enough. Alright, anyway. So, see you next time, and, yeah, hope you had fun. Let me know if you have any other requests.